Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Vanessa Valenzuela, and I am a part of our district's prevention team. I am our district's bullying prevention specialist, and in today's session, we will be discussing understanding bullying, cyberbullying, and cyber safety. And this Zoom session is going to be recorded for our family engagement workshop series. Perfect. Moving on to our agenda. We have a lot of content to go over today, and I will go over some of the topics that we will be discussing, beginning with what is bullying and what it's not, the four components of bullying, roles in bullying incidents, signs of bullying, effects of bullying, what is cyberbullying, tips to prevent cyberbullying, the impacts of cyberbullying, cyber safety, how to address bullying, supporting students who are engaging in bullying, and how parents and guardians can support students. Moving on to what is bullying. San Juan Unified is guided by the following definition from the evidence-based Olveus Bullying Prevention Program, OBPP, which is the acronym. Bullying is when someone repeatedly and on purpose says or does mean or hurtful things to another person who has a hard time defending themselves. The word bullying is often misused. However, we never want to minimize a student's feelings or experiences. We must make sure to consider the four components of bullying. The first being the behavior has to be a specific type of aggression, may it be verbal, physical, or psychological. Number two, the behavior is intended to harm or disturb. Number three, this behavior is carried out repeatedly and over time, or can be a severe one-time act. And number four, an imbalance of power, may it being either physical or psychological. And now that we have learned about the four components of bullying, we will move on to the important roles. Important roles that we see when describing bullying incidents, some of the terminology that we will typically hear, starting off with the bully, which also can be heard as the perpetrator or aggressor. The victim also can be known as target or a subject. The bystander, which is the witness of the bullying incident. We have the upstander who stands up for the victim or subject. And we have the reinforcer, so the person who is supporting the bullying. And now that we have gone over those four components in the roles, we can go over some more terminology. In addition to the bullying terms, we have teasing, conflicts, mean moments. So going over teasing, everybody typically is having fun, no one's getting hurt, and everyone is participating. We have a conflict where no one is having fun. There is a possible solution to the disagreement, and there's an equal balance of power. And we have a mean moment where someone is being hurt on purpose, the reaction to a strong feeling or emotion, and it's an isolated event, so this doesn't happen regularly. And where we have bullying, again, where someone is being hurt on purpose, this is done repetitive and over time, and there's that imbalance of power. So typically we have students using these terms, labeling it as bullying, but not knowing the differences. And by understanding these words better, we can avoid mislabeling normal conflicts and focus on what truly requires intervention. Moving on to what bullying is not. Bullying is not excluding, disliking somebody, accidental physical harm, being quote unquote bossy, telling a joke about someone once, and arguments. These are typical behaviors of students And it just all depends on the extremity. So, for example, like excluding and disliking someone, these are inevitable things of life, but we must treat all students and peers with respect. So, just because you exclude someone, dislike someone, there has to be other behaviors to follow through with them in order for it to be considered bullying. Although it's not kind behavior, it is not considered bullying. Whereas here we have students who have been bullied and students who bully others. So we want to emphasize that labeling students as bullies or victims can harm their self-esteem and reinforce negative behavior. It creates a fixed mindset and it makes it harder for them to change. Focusing on addressing specific behaviors and offering support is more effective for positive growth. So we have here, labels influence how students perceive or think about themselves and how others see them too. We have to be careful of that self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas like we say victim versus target of bullying, we want to use maybe the wording, my son is a target of bullying. Bully versus someone who bullies. She is someone who bullies other students all the time instead of just labeling someone. If you label someone and tell someone enough that they are something, they might actually start to believe it. Moving on to signs a student moving on to signs a student may be being bullied. Physical signs. We have unexplained bruises, cuts, or injuries, torn or damaged clothing, frequent complaints of headaches or stomach aches without a clear medical cause. Emotional and behavior changes. We could see withdrawal from social activities, friends, or family. Sudden mood swings, including feelings of sadness, anxiety, or depression. Low self-esteem or a change in self-confidence. Increased irritability or anger without a clear cause. And becoming more fearful or anxious about going to school. We can also see academic decline, a sudden drop in grades or lack of interest in schoolwork, trouble concentrating or completing homework, and frequently asking to stay home or faking an illness to avoid going to school. We can also see changes in eating or sleeping habits, loss of appetite or overeating, difficulty sleeping, nightmares, or bedwetting, typically in younger children. Verbal signs, saying things like, nobody likes me, or I wish I could disappear. Expressing fear of being teased, hurt, or made fun of, and repeatedly stating that they don't want to go to school or fear specific people. Relationship problems, losing friends or not wanting to engage in social activities that they once enjoyed and may not enjoy due to bullying. Talking about being excluded or not having anyone to sit with. And the effects of bullying can have a significant and long-lasting effect on both the person being bullied and the person doing the bullying. The impact can vary depending on the severity, duration, and types of bullying, but common effects can include mental health issues. This is on the point of view of the effect of bullying for the victim subject. We can see mental health issues, for example, anxiety, depression, and increased risk of suicide, feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, and loneliness, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, symptoms of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and PTSD and ACEs can interfere with emotional, cognitive, social, and physical growth, influencing an individual's ability to thrive in adulthood. We have physical health problems, so sleep disturbances or insomnia, headaches, stomach aches, or other stress-related conditions, and again, changes in appetite and weight. Low self-esteem and self-worth. So victims may develop a negative self-image, leading to decreased confidence and an increased risk of developing eating disorders or self-harm behaviors. Again, our academic and social struggles. Bullying often leads to decreased school performance due to lack of concentration, anxiety, or skipping school. And again, with that social withdrawal, isolation, or difficulty trusting others. In our long-term effects, victims may carry the trauma of bullying into adulthood, affecting their relationships, careers, prospects, and overall life satisfaction due to PTSD or ACEs, like we just discussed. And that increased vulnerability to mental health issues as they age. Moving on to the effects of bullying for the bully or the perpetrator. We have behavioral issues. So research indicates that bullies are more likely to engage in criminal behavior or violence later in life. There is an increased risk of substance abuse. Again, mental health issues. Bullies can develop problems such as aggression, impulsivity, and poor coping mechanisms, in addition to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and stress. Difficulties in relationships. Bullying can create difficulties in forming healthy, trusting relationships due to negative behaviors or attitudes. Bullying may lead to feelings of insufficiency or a lack of empathy, further harming social interactions. And our academic or career problems. Bullies may face disciplinary action at school or at work and may have trouble forming positive relationships with teachers or coworkers. Moving on to the effects of bullying for the bystander, so the person watching the bullying take place. We have emotional distress. Witnessing bullying can cause anxiety, fear, or helplessness in bystanders. Bystanders may feel conflicted about whether to intervene or stay silent, leading to moral distress. Normalization of bullying. If bullying is not addressed, bystanders might come to see it as acceptable behavior, perpetuating the cycle. Moving on to cyberbullying. The definition of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is a form of bullying that happens online and through digital devices such as smartphones, computers, and tablets. It involves the use of technology to deliberately harm, harass, intimidate, or humiliate somebody. Unlike traditional bullying, cyberbullying can happen anytime and anywhere, often leaving the victim feeling exposed and vulnerable. Moving on to the types of cyberbullying that we see, we have exclusion, where deliberately excluding someone from online groups, games, or conversations. We have trolling, where it's posting provocative or hurtful comments to upset or provoke a reaction. Cyberstalking and harassment, which is persistently following or intimidating someone online. Impersonation, pretending to be someone else online to spread lies, rumors, or hurtful content about them. And outing, doxing, which is sharing private, embarrassing, or sensitive information about someone without their consent. Characteristics of cyberbullying. Bullies can hide their identity, making it harder to confront them. Online content can remain accessible indefinitely, intensifying the impact. And messages or images can go viral, reaching a wide audience quickly. Cyberbullying occurs when your texts or posts are mean, hurtful, or unwanted, even if you don't intend them to be. What might seem funny to you could hurt somebody else, and you could be held accountable for that. To avoid being accused of cyberbullying, it's best to use social media positively and avoid spreading gossip or getting involved in conflicts, as it only adds unnecessary stress. Some impacts of cyberbullying: emotional distress and poor mental health decline, social withdrawal and feelings of isolation, and again, academic decline and loss of focus. Some helpful tips to prevent cyberbullying. To prevent cyberbullying, be polite online, as tone and expression can't be seen. Avoid sending messages when angry and only post content you're okay with being out there forever. If you receive hurtful messages, don't respond or forward them. Be cautious with photos, ensuring they're ones you'd be comfortable with your parents seeing, as they can be altered or reposted. Moving on to cyber safety. Don't put personal information like your address or school name anywhere online. Do not send or share inappropriate photos or messages. And if you receive an inappropriate photo or message, delete it immediately and report it to an adult. Make sure that you are documenting all of the cyberbullying as well, and create a hard to guess password. Change them regularly and don't share them with anyone other than your parents. Do not meet face to face with someone that you've met online. Uh, this is something we heavily recommend students to be incredibly safe online, because you don't know who you're talking to behind the screen. Not all communities and forums on the internet are positive, so choose the discussions and communities you participate in wisely. And double check if the facts and information you read online, especially information found on social media, is real. Moving on to how to address bullying. When speaking about bullying and how to address it, we want to acknowledge the problem. Take any bullying incident seriously. Let the victim know that they're being heard and that it's not their fault. Encourage open communication. Create an environment where your child or the person being bullied feels safe to talk about what's happening. Listen without judgment and provide reassurance. Teach confidence and self-advocacy. Encourage assertive behavior without aggression. Help the victim stand up for themselves, use strong body language, and seek support from trusted adults. Get involved. Talk to the school or workplace to make sure they're aware of the situation. Many schools have specific procedures for addressing bullying, including counseling and intervention programs. So make sure that you tap into your district resources and make sure that maybe there's a club or other programs that your student can get involved with if they are needing support or seeking support. Set boundaries and consequences. If the bullying continues, set clear boundaries with the bully and make sure there are consequences. Involve relevant administrators if necessary. So if you're feeling as if the bullying is hitting all 4 marks of the 4 components of bullying, you're documenting the bullying, make sure that all that information is being kept and presented to the appropriate administrators, may it being a principal, vice principal, school counselor, teacher, keeping the adults at your student's school in the loop is the best way to have a solution to the bullying incident. And as always, we want to promote empathy, educate both the victim and bully on the impact of their actions. This being something that our administrators do on site when it comes to intervention, and teaching them empathy can sometimes reduce bullying behavior overall. And it's very important to emphasize the importance of empathy for students to understand that sometimes these bullying behaviors are not a personal vendetta against them, but sometimes due to trauma and um, not having the appropriate skills to to deal with difficult situations or conflict. Moving on to monitoring the situation, stay involved and keep monitoring the situation, especially if the bullying continues or escalates. Use technology safely. If the bullying is online, if we're seeing cyberbullying, again, keep track of messages and report incidents to platform moderators. You always have the option online to report for bullying and harassment, block, so you don't have to continuously be flooded with the negativity on your feed, and ensure privacy settings are strong and encourage your child to block or mute the bully. And ultimately, by addressing bullying from multiple angles and offering support, you can help reduce its impact and create a safer, more positive environment. And to help a child who's being bullied avoid these mistakes. Number one, please don't tell them to ignore the bullying. Uh, as an adult who has already gone through school and has dealt with bullying themselves, um, I know that the word bullying gets thrown around, especially at school sites, within school staff. So, the first thing we want to make sure is that we're taking the situation seriously and that we are validating our students' feelings. So we don't want to tell them to ignore the bullying. We want to make sure that we don't blame them, even if they may have provoked it. Avoid encouraging physical retaliation, as it could lead to harm or punishment. And unfortunately, if you engage in violence, even if you are defending yourself, you may be at risk for consequences as well for the negative behavior. And then refrain from directly contacting the other parents. I would really emphasize on working together with your school site and let the school officials or administrators mediate the situation, as there is appropriate protocol for bullying incidents. Moving on to supporting students who are engaging in bullying. Supporting a student or a child who is bullying often, excuse me, supporting a child who is bullying others involves addressing the behavior calmly and constructively. Here are some steps. Again, take it seriously. Acknowledge the situation and avoid making excuses for their actions. Listen to their perspective, understand why they're behaving this way, but make it clear that the bullying is never acceptable. Focus on empathy and alternatives. Help them recognize the harm they've caused and teach them healthier ways to express emotions or deal with conflicts. We want to set clear boundaries, explain the consequences of bullying, and ensure they understand what's at stake if those behaviors continue and what the possible consequences for not only the future in school, but what could lead to the future in their career, whatever they decide to be in life. If those behaviors are not corrected, it can be a lot harder to modify those behaviors and to grow as an individual. We want to encourage accountability, have them take responsibility for their actions and experience an appropriate consequence. And we want to provide emotional support, offer guidance, love, and reassurance while staying firm on what's acceptable behavior. It's about creating a safe space for open communication while reinforcing that bullying is never the solution. How parents and guardians can support students. Bullies tend to target quieter or more passive students. So it's important to encourage your child to be confident in their body language, like standing tall and making eye contact. This is, in my opinion, the most important out of all the presentation, is focusing on the growth and feeding into our students and their confidence. making sure that they're not putting themselves at risk for being a victim, subject, or a target. Encourage your child to be involved in school activities. They will help your child develop friendships and feel more connected. And as someone who was involved in sports growing up, I feel like my sports team gave me being part of a team made me feel like I was a part of my school. And this can be anything, being part of a club, um, being on the band team, being on the swim team. It could be anything. It's just for your student to build community and feel like they belong, which they do, and that they are supported at their school site. Monitor online activity and establish boundaries. Keep the home computer in a shared area like a family room, and set a designated time for your child's cell phone to be turned off and placed in a central spot to charge. I know it can sound annoying, and it is annoying when you're the student, but these rules are crucial. I'm I would say as myself, as someone who had a parent that established these exact kind of rules, um, I think it's really important now that I have grown and developed. I think it's super important to make sure that your parent is aware of your online presence and that those devices are in a shared area. So there could be parental supervision. Spend one-on-one time with your child and regularly talk about what's happening at school and with friends. I know this can be hard depending on the age. Moving on to middle school and high school, sometimes a little bit harder to pry that information out of your students, but finding things that, that you guys have in common, maybe to break the ice before you jump into what you do at school, could help break the ice. Um, Really anything, just making sure that you sound genuine and that you want to be informed in a positive and be there in a positive way for your student so they can feel like they have that support if something is going on, so they feel the confidence to be able to open up to you. Spending that one-on-one time makes your student feel confident in opening up. And now that we have came to the end of the presentation and have discussed cyberbullying, how to address bullying, what is bullying, all of these important topics regarding bullying prevention, I hope that the information was useful. Thank you. Now that this presentation and workshop session has came to an end, I just wanted to say thank you for your time and for tuning in to understanding bullying, cyberbullying, and cyber safety. If you are interested in learning more about bullying prevention or prevention in general, feel free to check us out on the district webpage under prevention programs.